What's up YouTube, it's Saiyan here coming at you with another Magic the Gathering unboxing, and today we have our guest appearances back, Perry and Presley, ladies and gentlemen. The dynamic panda duo is back in the house. And I suppose to set the scene for today's video, we first need to explore what kind of a player I am. I think most of the Magic the Gathering players, even if they don't talk about it, normally tend to have a couple of archetypes that they really enjoy playing with. I am a tribal player, first and foremost. I've always been, even back before I played Magic the Gathering, when I played different card games, Hungarian card games back in the days, I've always been a tribal player. There is just something that I like about the coherence that you find in certain archetypes, and there is just something about ensuring that you create this little hole, this little bubble for this little home for certain cards that you really appreciate, you enjoy playing with. Maybe they're not the best cards, maybe they're not overpowered, but they're certainly on curve for what your deck is trying to do, and they certainly have additional abilities if you put it into a deck where they sort of help each other out because they're all the same archetype. And my first Magic deck that was somewhat usable was a Goblin deck with 4 Goblin Kings. Was around the early 2000s. I think it was 2001, 2002, I would say, maybe. I still have those Goblin Kings. One of my favorite artworks, Phil Folio is one of my favorite artists, and he's done the 6th edition Goblin King artwork, which I still to the day think is absolutely amazing. But we're not going to be looking at goblins here today. We're not. We're going to be looking at another one of my favorite tribals, which is ninjas. And I managed to fish out a starter deck from 2005 from the Betrayers of Kamigawa set called Ninjutsu. Now this is for experts only, guys, so don't mess with this shit if you don't know what you're doing. I'm only kidding, but I used to love these expert level, advanced level, beginning level sort of specifications that you could find on some of these sets. And I tell you what, guys, I've not opened one of these since about 2002, maybe. I do remember begging my mom for at least 2 weeks uh, to fund a mono blue deck, which came out with the 7th edition core set. It was also mono blue, don't know if I said that. So for me, opening this pack is definitely, if nothing else, will probably bring back a few memories. Now, there's 2 reasons why we have this opening today. A, uh, I managed to find this like dirt cheap on the eBay, but I must say there is a little bit of water damage to it, and it looks like somebody took a shit on this packaging as well. I hope it's not actual shit, but even if it is, I mean, this pack is 13 years old, so hopefully it's dry by now and somewhat less steaming of bacteria. It's not actually crap, don't worry, guys. It's just some sort of maybe some water droppings that was hitting this packaging. So what I'm really hoping for is that the cards actually are not damaged or not too damaged. And the reason why I started to look into this is the second reason why we're opening this today, is because for a long time I've been actually tinkering to make ninjas playable. Now, there hasn't been any ninjas printed since the Kamigawa block, and I know that Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to go back there, apparently ever, even though it was one of the most balanced standard uh, format that was out there. It was during the Kamigawa standard, but they had some major problems with gamers not getting into the game. Potentially, they keep blaming that it was because of the samurais and the ninjas. But I mean, come on, who doesn't like ninjas? Who doesn't like samurais? What was shitty was those fucking spirits and all those crappy little artwork used for the goblins and shit like that. They were trying to really relate a lot of the cards to obviously Japanese mythology, and sometimes they just shot extreme blanks. But when it came to the design of the ninja cards, when it came to the design of the samurai cards, I think they hit the nail on the head right there. And even to the day, we got some legendary lands, of course, which are used from the Kamigawa block, especially if you're playing blue. You're probably familiar with some of those, because of course choke don't hit you if you're playing these specific lands. But anyway, without any further ado, let's crack open this bad boy. And well, I know what's in it because it's on the internet. If you go on Wizards' website, you see exactly what's in here. There's not a lot of value. I'm already going to be very honest here, but I think it's very cool to open an expert level starter set from 2005, especially because it is one of my favorite tribals, which are ninjas. So let's crack open. Guess who's here? I trust this is it. So let's see what's in here. I mean, there's really not going to be anything special. If you want to have a look at the packaging, actually, I'm going to open it up first, and then oh wait, hey, guess what? 2005, and they already had the latest plastic technology where you can just rip open the packaging. Guess what? Who knew? And I was talking about the water damage. I'm already struggling to see. It's like I gotta peel this shit off. Really? Oh, gosh. Okay, that's it. Okay, well, it doesn't look like there's a lot of damage that we've done to the box itself, so I was hoping that that's going to be the case, because I'm really banking on keeping this, maybe even using it as a deck box for some unsleeved cards. We did whiten her hair a little bit, but nothing too awful that we've done to it. So if you want to have a quick look, you can see that there is a very specific type of packaging here. You got those specific material for the bamboo trees that they're used. And if you stop the video at this point, you can also read what actually is on here. I'm not going to go through it this time. I'm just going to get into the packaging straight away. So we got a Ninjutsu theme deck, 2005, just to and there you go, just to show the authenticity. 2005, Great Britain. So we crack it. Oh, all right. It's really cool, because there is an additional wrapping on the cards as well. So I can't see any water damage that got into the packaging either. So happy days, happy days. Very happy with that. Super cool. I'm really gonna keep this on the shelf and look after it. Okay, so there's a little bit of damage to the foiling here, but that was very common, sort of early and mid 2000s. We got some sort of a player's guide. We don't have a full rule book with this, of course. So I'm just trying to scout out which one is the easiest place to open this up, and I can see a hole here, so we're gonna go in there very gently with the scissors, do a quick cut, and we're already getting in there, guys. Okay, like I said, there's not a lot of value in there in this particular starter deck, but then again, none of these starter decks were ever really popular for having a huge amount of value in them. Like I said, this for me is more about nostalgia, and I know there are a few cards in here which I'm hoping to run in that Ninjutsu deck that I've been working on for a while now. So, oh wow, the cards still smell like new, which is really cool. So before we actually get into the content, let's just look at this little information leaflet here. So we know we got a ninjutsu deck, if that wasn't obvious until now. And if you open it up, we got some really cool stuff here, actually. It talks about, it's asking you first and foremost, are you a new player? And if you are, it's trying to sell you a product. And then it talks about ninjas, obviously being one of the tribals from the Kamigawa period. Does talk about patron kamis, does talk about defenders. We did have something similar across the defenders before, but here they got properly introduced, the keyword got properly introduced. Uh, Talks a little bit about the story, which we don't get whatsoever anymore. Nowadays, you really have to be on the right channels to have any idea what's happening on the Vortos side of things. Whereas back in the days here, we still had some introduction to what is actually happening in the story, and then there is a little more about the story bit, MTG Arena um, advertisement here, and we got a full deck list, which again we don't get anymore with um, the new Planeswalker decks. It's been cut out completely, which I think is absolute rubbish. There should always be a deck list that is part of your paperwork that you get with the cards. Talks about some of the basic strategies, how you should play the deck when they're playing the deck, and then some questions and credits. And just generally, I think it's really well designed. If I would go back to 2005, this is exactly how most of the things did look in that period of time. And already I can see we got two rares to work with here. We got Higure, the Still Wins, and we got Tomorrow Azami's Familiar. I know Higure is a good card if you're playing with ninjas, but I suppose the highlight here really is that we got 3 copies of Ninja of the D Powers. If any of you are familiar with the Ninja Bear Delver deck, then you should probably be familiar with those cards specifically. But without any further ado, let's go through the actual cards. I'm glad to see that we have actual Kamigawa lands here, and they are very, very beautiful looking. Should be about 24 here. So these will be these are very nicely welcome in my collection of lands anyway. I did always like the artwork and didn't really have many of these old school Kamigawa lands, so super cool stuff. And of course, as you can see, you can this is still from back in the days where you could actually make out a full art if you put these cards together. Don't know if this is visible properly. It should be. So you get this really cool looking artwork if you put the 4 lands next to each other, which they've completely gotten away from. But I think it adds just so much flavor to the game. You know, when you build your deck, a lot of people like to have the same basic islands. You know, 10, 12, whatever you play with, how many ever you play with. If you play with one, doesn't really matter. But I think these are really cool that you can actually piece them together. There's something that they should probably try and get back to. Um, uh, Wizards of the Coast. Okay, so this is it for the lands. We got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, as I suspected, because that's exactly what the Tinternet said as well about the amount of lands, and also the deck list that we just looked at. So we got 24 lands here, which leaves us with 36 cards. So, what are these 36 cards? Let's find out. We got a Teardrop Kami, 1-drop, 1/1, Spirit, sacrifice Teardrop Kami, tap or untap target creature. So immediately we start to use the mechanics where we get some blockers out of the way before the attack to get those ninjas hitting through. We got 2 copies of Kaijin of the Vanishing Touch, Note 3 Defender for 2 mana. Whenever Kaijin of the Vanishing Touch blocks a creature, return that creature to its owner's hand at the end of the combat. Again, another example of blue doing what it's really good at in bringing, obviously, creatures, returning creature cards back into their owner's hand. Then we got 2 Minamo Sidebender, a 1/2 for 2. Pay X, tap it, target creature with power X or less is unblockable this turn. We're using Minamo to basically make our ninjas unblockable so they can get in and we can use whatever abilities they have when they damage the opponent in the face. We got 2 Saratami, Cloud Skater, again another 2-drop, 1/1 flyer, and for 2 mana as an instant, if you return a land you control to its owner's hand, you can draw a card and discard a card. Pretty weak, but I suppose back in the days this was fairly useful, and it does give you that card uh, sort of rotation card digging ability. Um, and then we have uh, 2 flip cards here. Student of Elements and Tabita, Master of Winds, when it flips around. So when you drop it, it's a 1/1 for 2. When Student Elements is flying, flip it, so we gotta give it flying somehow, and I'm sure there are some means to be able to do that. And when it flips around, it becomes a 3/3, giving all your creatures flying, which obviously it's really welcome. If you can give your ninjas flying, then they can hit in a little bit more easily. So I forgot to show the previous cards. This is Star Atomic Cloud Skater. I think it's absolutely beautiful artwork, by the way, for most of these cards. This was Minamo, Sidebender, and making our creatures unblockable. Kaijin of the Vanishing Touch. These are the spirits that I couldn't really make a lot of sense of, but still, they're definitely useful cards uh, in terms of bringing in the Japanese mythology. I think it's a good imagination of how some of the Western people would imagine some of these folklore stories coming from Japan. Moving on, we have our first ninja, Mistblade Shinobi, and I think it's a pretty cool card. First of all, it's a 1/1 for 3, which sounds absolutely rubbish. But every ninja has the ninjutsu ability, which allows you that if you get an unblocked attacker attacking, then you can play it basically for a lot cheaper as well, attacking, tapped and attacking. And whenever Mistblade Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. So it's basically got built-in. Um, gosh, it's not. Is it unsummon? It's not unsummon, is it? It's basically a Vapor Snag without the 1 damage, but there's another card that predates Vapor Snag that basically Mistblade Shinobi does for you. So, yeah, our first ninjas, Mistblade Shinobi. Um, it looks really bad on the surface. It's actually fairly usable if you really build your deck around it. Then we have 3 copies of the River Kaijin, which is a vanilla 1/4 spirit for 3. Put it to the side. Don't set it on fire. Give it to the kids so they can play with it and never, ever, ever look at it again. And then we got to the beefier stuff. We got 1 copy of Walker or of Secret Ways, which I think it's a fairly good ninja. Um, it's a 1/2 for 3, so if we just go with those stats, it's already better than Mistblade Shinobi. But again, we're not going to play for that cost. We're going to use this ninjutsu ability, so we can actually drop it for 2 to replace an unblocked attacker. And whenever Walker of Secret Ways deals combat damage to a player, you can look at that player's hand, which can be very useful information indeed. And of course for 2 as an instant, but only during your turn, you can return target ninja you control to its owner's hand. So this gives to the surprise element of the other ninjas being able to take them back to your hand and potentially surprise your opponent by playing those again. But this is definitely the namesake card that the artwork they used for the packaging, and I think it's very sweet. We could definitely do with more than 1 copy of the Walker of the Secret Ways in this deck. And I'm probably the most well-known ninja, as we've said before, Ninja of the Deep Powers. I've already had 4 copies of this bad boy, so this is probably gonna just go into the folder. Oh, excuse me, I shouldn't be yawning. Right, this is really bad, I shouldn't be yawning at all. So on the surface it's a 2/2 for 4, which would be appalling, but again we can play for 2 with this ninjutsu ability, and whenever Ninja of the Deep Powers deals combat damage to the player, you may draw a card. Well, I don't think I need to really say any more about Ninja of the D powers. Being able to draw a card off every time we hit our opponent in the face is very useful, very good. Then we got Suratami Mirror Guard. It's a 3/1 for 4 with flying and for 2 generic mana. Again, if you return a land you control to its owner's hand, target creature with power 2 or less is unblockable this turn. So just another card really to help us to bring damage into the opponent's face with our ninjas so they can apply their abilities. And our first rare is Higure the Still Winds. It's a legendary creature ninja. It's sort of like the big daddy of the ninjas. It's a 3/4 for 5 on the surface, but we can drop it for 1 less mana if we can use his ninjutsu ability. Whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, we can search our deck for a ninja and put it into our hand, which is really cool, but it's even better that for any 2 mana we can make target ninja unblockable this turn, which is really what we're trying to do in this deck. So another opportunity. This gives us surge abilities, and this gives also the ability for our ninjas to be unblockable. So we do like Igure. And our other rare out of the 2 that we get in this pack for 6 mana. It's a 1/5 legendary creature spirit. If you would draw a card, look at the top 3 cards of your library instead. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Now, this actually is a pretty cool card, but just because it costs so much and it's legendary, it's never really going to see play, let's be honest. Artwork pretty creepy, pretty cool as well, I must say. For this deck, it certainly serves a very good purpose. It combos super well with your Ninja of the D powers. But when are you going to get to play a 6-drop? Really, that's pretty far into the game. So, well, it is what it is. Then we have 2 copies of Genju of the Falls, which is an enchant island. I don't know if there are any other ancient islands. I know of ancient lands which you can use to any lands, but this is specific to an island. So for 1, you get an enchant island, which doesn't do anything on its own. But if you pay 2 generic mana, Enchanted Island becomes a 3/2 blue spirit creature with flying, which is pretty cool. And when Enchanted Island is put into a graveyard, you may return Genju of the Falls from your graveyard to your hand. So you never really lose this card. It basically gives you a manland, is what it does. I think it's pretty cool, especially that it's flyer. Yeah, again, it makes it more easy for you to get damage in with the ninjas that you're trying to play here. Then we got 2 copies of Phantom Wings. It's a 2 mana enchant creature, which gives a flying to the enchanted creature. And you can sacrifice this card, return enchanted creature to its owner's hand. So at instant speed, not only do you make it more difficult for your opponent to block the creature, you can also save it. It's not a bad card, to be fair. Plus, you can use it for this other guy that when it gets flying, it does something. If you use it with Student of Elements, you can basically flip it immediately. So this was the card that I was waiting for, that didn't know which one it will be. Use Phantom Wings to give Student of Elements flying. It's going to flip around. You end up with a 3/3 flyer, and then you can save it as well. Return it back into your hand if your opponent targets it with some removal. Then we got Field of Reality. Probably one of the best artworks that we find in this pack. I think it's just absolutely super cool looking. It's a 3-drop enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't be blocked by spirits, which was relevant in the Kamigawa block, obviously with a lot of spirits being playable. And for 2, you can return this card to your hand or to the owner's hand, so that adds to the replayability. We got 1 copy of Lifted by Clouds. Basically another 3-drop. This is an instant, arcane instant. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. You can splice into arcane for 2, so you can make it 1 cheaper as well. It's another card which you can use for that dude before to grant it flying and do some shenanigans like that. Another 3-drop instant. Hinder counter target spell if it's converted mana card. If it's countered this way, put that card on top of or bottom of its owner's library instead of that player's graveyard. So probably at the bottom is a better choice. Fairly expensive counter spell, and it doesn't really even hit the level of cancel. But then again, if you're countering some cards which you don't want to see ending up in the graveyard, then Hinder might be your choice. We have one copy of Mystic Restraints, another enchant creature, this time a 4-drop. It's got flash, and when it comes into play, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its owner's controller untap phase. So it's your usual claustrophobia sort of card that you do get with a lot of these constructed blue decks. Looking at it, we actually have 3 copies of there. There was a slight mix-up. I was wondering that, like, normally you get more than 1 copy of these claustrophobia type effects in any blue deck. And we have another counter spell, Menamos Meddling for 4 mana, extremely expensive. Counter target spell. The spell's control reveals his or her hand, then discards each card with the same name as a card spliced onto that spell. Again, splicing arcane spells was relevant back in the days. Who the hell's gonna keep up 4 mana? I don't know, especially if you have a few fairly heavily costed creatures. But then again, who am I to tell? Who am I to say these things? And then we have 1 copy of Shuriken. I was pretty sure there's gonna be more than 1 here, but anyway, we got 1 Shuriken. It's a 1-drop artifact equipment. Equipped creature has tap it, unattached Shuriken. Shuriken deals 2 damage to target creature. That creature's controller then gains control of Shuriken unless it was unattached from a ninja, and then you can equip it back for 2. A very expensive removal, but at least we get some level of removal. Then we get 2 copies of Ronin War Club, which is our final 2 cards for 3 mana. And an equip cost of 5, which is ridiculous. Equip creature gets +2/+1. When a creature comes into play under your control, attach Ronin War Club to that creature. So I suppose you play for 3, and then you play one of your ninjas that come down with ninjutsu for cheap. You immediately get the Ronin War Club attached to them, and then you can obviously get in additional amounts of damage. And something that kind of surprised me, we get a foil island in here. I don't know why, but it looks pretty cool. You got some bamboos there, and you got some old Japanese sort of huts at the background. Generally looks pretty cool. It's gonna go well into the collection. Why we get a foil island, I honestly have no idea, but I'll take it for sure. It says nothing about foil islands here on the deck content, so that's a nice little surprise. So like I said, guys, there's nothing extraordinary in this pack. It was just nice to pick it up. It was very, very cheap, as I said before as well. This isn't the kind of deck that I would just leave up and play with, even if I had the another that was released at this time. But it's nice to see these cards. It certainly brings me down memory lane. I'm very happy with Migure. I'm very happy with all the ninjas, really. Rolling War Club is actually not as bad as it might look on the surface, allowing you to immediately attach it when you drop it. So yeah, guys, I really hope you enjoy getting down memory lane with me. And this is to another unboxing here on the channel. I welcome the new subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so. Also, please like the videos, leave a comment, and share it with everybody that you feel like sharing this video in particular, or other videos that I've made with your friends, family, your dog, your babysitter, whoever might be interested in ninjas, whoever might be interested in the Kamigawa block, whoever might be interested in a guy in a baseball cap talking about ninjas and other shit like that. A guy who has 2 pandas in the background. President Perry. quick clap to these guys because they are the real stars of this show anyway, if you know what I mean. So peace out YouTube, Bussy and signing out. Stay tuned for more videos.